It's Amanda and Kate.
Hi.
We're doing something live. Yes, Deb. Except I can't figure out my life. So we're here because we just wanted to chit-chat about the Home Education Freedom Act. And I'm going to link some things to this live afterwards, to the bill, to all the amendments, to our current law, to the sign-in, whatever you think about it, to the bill so that you can sign in, submit testimony. When I say sign in, I mean support, not support, sign in neutral, submit your thoughts on this bill. So what we're hoping to do is just to try to look at it from the 30,000 foot view. We don't have time, we don't have energy, look at us, to go through line by line. That's just not going to happen. This is just so much. Okay, so I want to start out, and hopefully, my technical difficulties, notwithstanding, people will watch this after the fact, and I'll look and see if there are any other questions. But first of all, I wanted to introduce myself. So obviously I'm Amanda, and I am in leadership with Granite State Home Educators and Christian Home Educators of New Hampshire and Southern Maine. And so I'm a veteran home educator. I've been doing this a long time, over 15 years, and I'm a home education advocate in the state. So I do all kinds of info sessions and meetups and events, and I love people and meeting people. That's my favorite thing to do. This is not my favorite thing to do. And so I just want you to have perspective, and that I am a veteran and have been around quite a long time and involved in politics as well, because we are going to be talking about some politics. Did you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Kate. I'm also a veteran home educator, but I have not been as active until recently. The current climate has been such that it feels like people need to step up more and participate more, so I am trying to do that. As I'll still be in the trenches for a few more years, I think it is very worthwhile to follow this through.
Awesome. All right, so we are just going to talk about the bill, current law, pros and cons, questions that we've gotten from people, and we're going to do our best to try to answer the questions that we've gotten. Even up until today, someone was messaging me, asking me about it. So first, I want to go over current law. So there are 4 pathways in New Hampshire: public school, private school, home education, and then the EFA, the 4th pathway. This bill is about the 3rd pathway, It's not the Education Freedom Account stuff, although the stuff is jammed in there, which we're going to talk about. But this is the Home Education Freedom Act, okay? Our current law, let's talk about it. Don't believe the HSLDA ratings, okay, who have us as like moderate or high ranking in terms of what we have to do in the state. So currently, we have minimal guidelines in New Hampshire. No, we don't have no guidelines. That's not it, right? But we have minimal guidelines. We have choices, all right, depending on how you feel about the government and government oversight. We have choices in New Hampshire currently. So we do one-time notification per child. It's not asking permission. There's no approvals. There's no, yearly thing you have to do. It's a one-time notification per child in New Hampshire. So we're not asking permission. We're not looking for approval, nothing. Okay. It's a notification, and you get an acknowledgement letter from wherever you decide. You have options on where to notify. There is a private option currently in statute on how to notify that is with a private school that leaves your student completely off any databases or tracking, anything like that. The school simply gets the notification number of kids who notify, and then sends that number to the state. No information that is yours, that's private, is transferred to any outside agency other than your participating agency. And even then, they don't share it with the state. Okay, so we currently have that option. You can also notify one time with your SAU. You can also do it with the DOE. Those are varying levels of government oversight and data tracking. It depends on what you're comfortable with. But we currently have, right now, one-time notification per child, and we have a private option. That's minimal. We do it once, not every year like Maine. We do it one time. Other paperwork. In current law, we have options. So we have to keep a portfolio. It does not expressly state how you must keep a portfolio in law. So really, it's largely up to your style, your organizational style. Some people keep a milk crate of various stuff. Some people keep everything in file cabinets. Some people keep, just a scrapbook or, on a computer or a Facebook group. I mean, it doesn't specify in the law how to keep a portfolio. So really, it's up to you. The other thing is year-end assessments, the paperwork. You have options in New Hampshire for year-end assessments. You can do standardized testing, and you have multiple options that the parents fully get to choose, or you can do a portfolio evaluation, and you fully have autonomy to choose for different child, different evaluator. You can do a test for one child, an evaluator for another. You can do 2 different evaluators because you have different styles for different kids. It is totally up to the parent, currently in law, how to keep a portfolio or what year-end assessments you would like to use to satisfy what's in statute for the law. Okay, so we have tons of options. It's all up to the parent. In addition to this, in New Hampshire, we don't turn anything in. This is minimal, guys. This is minimal. I'm not sure how HSLDA gave us a moderate, stamp of we have moderate regulations, because some exist, but they're minimal. Okay, we don't turn anything in the home education pathway in New Hampshire.
And just to keep in mind that part of the year-end assessment, this is not a pass-fail. No one is giving you permission to go to the next level of any curriculum you might have or telling you need to repeat things. This is just eyes on a paper. That's it.
Yep. So again, we want you to get outside of the public school mindset. There's no permissions here. There's no, Common Core standards. There's no guidelines. There's freedom in the law in New Hampshire currently as it stands. And I really think that these are minimal standards, guys. I've never, in all the years I've been doing this, and Kate either, I've never met one person who has said, this is too much. Like, I can't believe I have to notify one time per child and I have a private option. I mean, it's like, never have I heard a person say, these guidelines are burdensome. And what's interesting is that all the information out there is saying that, we think these are burdensome laws, all these things we have to do. No, I don't think that that's true at all. So we have one-time notification, we have a portfolio, which is up to you how to keep it, and then we have a year-end assessment, which is up to you what it looks like, and we don't hand anything in New Hampshire. I don't see that as being excessive. And I do have to say this, there are people who don't even like that, and they just don't do it. And that is fully a risk that you incur. You have a right to not do it. And I know people who just decide they don't want to do that. They don't want to be part of that system at all, and they don't do a portfolio, and they don't do year-end assessments because there's no time stamp on them. I mean, it already doesn't have to be at a certain date or time or deadline in the home ed pathway. So people have the right to not do it already. So we have minimal guidelines, and then they have the right to not do it. That's current law. Okay. So on to this bill. And we could go on for hours. We're not going to do that. But we could go on for hours about what has transpired with this bill, the back and forth, the amount of, I will say it, propaganda surrounding this bill, directly from the prime sponsors has been wild. But we just wanted to share real questions, real situations that we need to think about before we sign into this bill for support or oppose or sign in neutral or testify. So we're hoping that, we can honestly represent different opinions and different thoughts about it, and then talk about transparently what the concerns are. So the first thing, let's talk about the intent. So the intent as stated by Representative Noble, who is the prime sponsor of this bill. So she went and pitched this bill. We were there in person, and she said the intent of this bill is to differentiate between the home education pathway and the EFA pathway. That's what she said in her own terms at the hearing. That's the intent of this bill. So the first thing I want to ask is, have you read this bill? Have you read it? Because it's been changed an awful lot. There's a lot of amendments. There was a floor amendment, and it has, it was submitted as a placeholder, a junk bill that was not relevant at all. And then it was completely rewritten multiple times, substituted, amended on the floor. So have you read this bill is the number one thing. I'm going to link all of this after the live in the comments here so that you can read through it. You've got to read it, guys. You've got to read it because some of this stuff is wild, okay? So the intent of this bill, is to separate the pathways. I think that cramming EFA changes and EFA law into the Home Education Freedom Act is not right. So I'm just going to say that our legislators have decided to jam in EFA changes and statutes.
And whether you support EFA, you don't support EFA, you're in the middle, I see that any changes that affect a pathway should have their own bill. Any policy change, any change of statute for the EFA should be in an EFA bill, not a home education bill.
Yep. Any changes to other laws, especially other pathways, especially a new pathway, that's really controversial, it deserves its own bill number, its own hearing, its own testimonies and your input separately. I mean, the EFA families should have a say in all of this. They should know all about it, and it shouldn't be jammed in a home education bill, period. Okay? So I object to that. Okay? What's in here that's EFA? Again, I don't want to get into the whole nitty-gritty details, but number one thing is it completely rewrites equal access law. Mm-hmm. So RSA 193(1)C, equal access law, this bill completely rewrites it. And so it includes EFA students in equal access law, which they already receive their adequacy funding. And so additionally receiving equal access without paying for it is taxpayers paying for that twice, which I'm just going to put out there to the world that's bad news. That is bad news. But they've jammed in equal access for EFA students in this bill. And they've also spelled out the different things that are covered under equal access because they rewrote it and stuck it in. And that actually leaves it open to arguing that if it's not on the list, it's not included in equal access. So it opens up a can of worms that we don't need to open here on multiple fronts. It also talks about EFA notifications to superintendent, termination of a program. Guys, you got to read this bill. So EFA should not be in a Home Education Freedom Act. Okay, they're two separate pathways. The intent of this bill, according to the prime sponsor, is to separate. So why is it in it? I'm not sure. Did you have words on that? Hear, hear. Okay, I'm going to try to respond to Colleen here. So the thing is, Colleen, I don't mind if anyone hops on, but Doris cannot behave. I'm just going to be honest with you. So, I can't deal with her nonsense is my answer to that. So, I'm open to it, but I don't have to block her, man. Okay. So the other thing that is, before we get into like the political climate, is that in this bill, HEAC is repealed, is dissolved. Now, I want you to understand what HEAC is, Home Education Advisory Council. It's been in statute. It's the only body in statute that is a voice for the home education pathway in the State House, okay? So it's the only voice. Whether you like it, whether you don't like it, it's been a source of contention over the last 2 years because our legislators, who are Republicans and co-sponsors of this bill, do not like that home educators want to be separate from the Education Freedom Account. And that has played out very dramatically, that you can go to the HEAC page on newhampshire.gov and watch the videos. They're delightful. So you can go watch for yourself. It's been really contentious. And so these legislators, Republicans, tried to, in a very sneaky way, repeal HEAC before by attaching a non-germane amendment bill to a different bill. But we found out about it and went and killed that thing. But now it's here again. And a sitting member, legislator, Representative Peternell, without even telling HEAC, she sits on HEAC, Ruth Ward as well, put in another bill to completely redesign HEAC, but then she changed it at the last minute to say repeal. So there's been some shenanigans going on with this, and I just want you to know that here it is again in this bill. It completely dissolves the only state level body that we have that has a voice with the Commissioner of Education, who is new, Caitlin Davis, and our legislators, which is a senator and 2 House representatives, as well as a number of nominated people from different organizations across the state. It's important, guys, because they get together with different bodies in other education that are administrative positions. So we appreciate this council, and despite, all the shenanigans and things that have gone on, this is stuck in this bill again to repeal it. And so, however you feel about that, you need to voice your opinion that the legislator, the co-sponsor of this bill, Peternell, who was sitting on HEAC, did this without consulting HEAC at all. And I think that those actions speak for themselves. And so HEAC repealed. Did you want to say anything else about that before we move on to like the bigger?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Large view.
Feel free to hop in, and my cat might as well. Okay, so this bill, as I read it, okay, and so I am just going to be honest with you. I am a very right-leaning, liberty-minded. I don't take the EFA. I qualify for all the things, and I don't agree with government-funded anything. So I very much am for homeschool, home education, school choice, parents having power. I'm for all of those things. I'm for liberty, okay? But my liberty includes being left alone to parent and raise my own children without government oversight or interference as much as possible. So that's where I'm coming from reading this. But I'm also coming from it having been an advocate for over 15 years and having been directly involved over and over and over again with families, with parents who have had cases opened, door knocks from DCYF. And that's the main thing that we're going to talk about. Because on the surface here, removing paperwork, guys, that sounds great. That sounds great to me. Removing the requirement for a portfolio or the requirement for year-end assessments. Okay, great. That sounds great. But Kate said earlier, until you're asked to produce it in family court, right?
That's a whole different ballgame.
Okay, it sounds great to remove this superficial paperwork that we have to do, which, by the way, circling back to my first point, under current law is not burdensome, and if you don't want to do it, people just don't do it. So you already have a very minimal requirement. So removing these minimal requirements, this minimal framework, I'm not sure that that is real, true freedom. Okay, so we, a whole bunch of us talked to the prime sponsor, to the sponsors, to the lobbyists who've been pushing this thing and tried to say, like, listen, we love it. We love home education freedom. We're 100% on board with this. But, however, once you remove all of the minimal framework that we have in statute that is positive proof for us, it's in statute, it's reliable, acceptable first contact proof, that acknowledgement letter, that notification letter, you have that in hand within 14 days of your notification. That piece, okay, and then paternal waving the paper at me at the hearing. We'll go watch the hearing, guys. Yes, that notification is useful in first contact situations. So neighbors call on home education families. I did a video, look on my YouTube channel, and I gave 2 examples of things that have happened to me personally. When we were at the park during COVID and people called the police. Families have DCYF interactions a lot, and they do not feel comfortable sharing that on a Facebook Live. They're not going to share that with the world on the New Hampshire Families for Education page with, who knows who on a public page. They're just not going to do that. You know who they tell?
Us.
Leaders. They tell the leaders, oh my gosh, Amanda, I'm going through this right now, and if I don't have this bazillion paperwork, I don't know what I would do. You have to have a paper trail. You have to have proof. You have to have the thing. And so...
And while we're on the topic of this, it's important to note that at the House hearing, the lobbyists and the organizations that testified for this bill, their recommendation was to keep good paperwork, keep track of this information, even though they support taking it out of the statute. So it wouldn't be codified. But that's what they, as lawyers, suggest and recommend that we do.
So still do it. Still do everything the current law says. So, okay. So that's what they said. So we have, over the years, had very real instances of public schools refusing withdrawals, not allowing the parent to withdraw the child, threatening to call DCYF, harassment, calling them over and over again, trying to lure the child back to the school. Well, make sure, he comes back to say goodbye, to pick up his stuff, only to have a caseworker, somebody there when the parent goes back. Like, it's a trap. These are like the stuff of nightmares. And these things still happen, guys. You just don't hear about it. And so it's very frustrating for people to write a bill who don't homeschool, or the people who did homeschooled, 20 years ago when there was no EFA or no controversies or no spotlight. Okay. It's really frustrating because we're on the front lines here and we're the ones who have to walk people through this. We hold the hand of people who are dealing with these things and help them by walking them through these steps of paperwork and what to keep and that paper trail. And it's just so frustrating for people to say, oh, well, this changes everything. It puts the law on your side. Well, great. Well, that's fantastic. But guess what? It doesn't change any procedure or guidelines or anything else for actual interactions. It doesn't. And so that's where I'm coming from, is removing all requirements, paperwork stuff sounds great. In reality, those interactions are not going to change. It's just that under this bill, we won't have an affirmative positive proof to come up with, to provide. Well, then it says you could do an optional written declaration. So that's basically the same thing as your notification that we currently have one time. So why, and they actually said, I'm not kidding you. Well, just, write it down. If someone knocks on the door, write an optional notification right there on a piece of paper and hand it to them. Do you honestly think, I'm asking you, do you honestly think that that's going to be sufficient in that scenario? That, with your Sharpie marker, you write down, I'm home educating my student, so-and-so, here's the date. No.
And it's important to note in states that have had statutes like this in place that are considered very home education friendly, that have had no notifications, no paperwork. It's important to see where they are now, what currently is happening around the country right now with states that have had what is being proposed for New Hampshire now.
Connecticut. I'm just going to say Connecticut. Connecticut. Pray, send vibes to Connecticut because they're in trouble. They're a no notification state, and they're looking at being directly reported to DCYF if they withdraw a child to homeschool.
Yearly forced interactions with a state official, someone that has no knowledge of the family or the student. Which, like Amanda said, when you withdraw your student, it's from public school. Notification to the DCYF office. We're seeing the same thing in Tennessee. This is happening.
There's bills all over because, guys, the nationwide spotlight is on. It's on because homeschooling is growing, right?
Yes.
Public school funding is going down, and let's be honest, a whole side of the aisle hates that. Absolutely hates that. And so this bill has a lot of words and it says a lot of things. But if you're an unschooler, Cornerstone, okay, one of the lobbying organizations, which otherwise is a great organization, they're pro-life, I like them, good job. But they're dipping their toes in other areas where, honestly, they don't know what they're talking about. Okay, so their lawyer said, just what Mickey said right here, as long as the kids aren't outside all day, they should be fine. So they did one of these things like what we're doing right now, and so it was like, what about unschoolers, guys? What if, your kid is outside all day? What if you're out foraging and you're out living life, with no boundaries and no curriculum? What proof are you going to have when somebody reports you, when somebody knocks on the door? When we're out in the middle of the day and the cashier asks too many questions and the nosy person, in line is like, well, your kid's dirty. Well, yeah, that's because they were playing in the mud outside all day. What do you mean they're playing? Guys, these things legitimately happen, and you're going to have no affirmative proof protection in statute under this bill. There's no thing that's in statute codified that is producible on your end
that carries any weight with any of these government agencies.
Because government agencies aren't changing, right? DCYF isn't changing, compulsory attendance, those things aren't changing. And it sounds great. Okay. It sounds great to say, no, this flips the script. This puts, all the power in your hands. Well, guess what?
Power's already there.
It is already there. And when push comes to shove, if someone knocks on the door, you're going to need that thing. And guess what? Lobbyists, they're looking to grow their numbers. We're not looking to be reelected here. Okay. It is an election season, guys. And I can't tell you enough that this is a lot of this is politics.
Yep.
Is trying to get reelected. And I hate that is part of this, but it is. So
I think a good recap would be that if this passes, what is in here is the dissolution of HEAC, the only state level body where home education pathway has a voice and has the commissioner's ear. The changes to the EFA that should have their own separate statute, so the people that have EFA would be made aware of these changes and can weigh in on their own pathway. And what Amanda was just discussing as far as the repeal of the proactive mechanisms that we have in place to address truancy laws, child abuse and neglect, and those things. It's important to please read the bill. Read the bill.
Yep, and all the amendments, guys, because it's so much. And so, yes, it does have a lot of language in there that is, I think, great. I mean, I think that on a very basic level that they've done the best they could to try to firm up the language. But one statute does not cancel out other statutes, guys. That's not how it works. So these two laws, equal access law and this bill, are going to be in conflict. And so that's why this has changed too, that some of the things were taken out. But I just want to reiterate that this is a nationwide movement here of all eyes upon us. All eyes are on homeschooling across the U.S. And so I just want you to consider that New Hampshire currently is a Republican-led state, okay, by a majority, by a large margin, okay, by a large margin. And that is going to change at some point. If someone tells you anything else, that is a lie. They might say, well, then vote for me and make sure it doesn't flip. Well, donate to my campaign to make sure that doesn't happen, that Dems don't come back in control. Listen, all lies, okay? It is going to flip, friends. We are a purple state. The hard right push is extremely unpopular right now in New Hampshire. So the backswing on this baby is going to be rough, all right? And so not only is the EFA going to be completely under a microscope when this flips to Dem majority, absolute microscope. Now, if this bill passes, which it probably, something is going to pass through, we are also going to be under a microscope. Any Dem, okay, I'm just being honest, guys, any Dem reading this is like, what in the world are they hiding? The amount of protective language up to including, there's a fine. It has $1,000 fine for a false report to DCYF written in here. Is that enforceable? There's a lot in here, okay? And I don't want to take away from the intent, because largely most of us don't trust the government, right? We don't want the government in our homes. Like, we agree on that, okay? But is creating a complete void, a hole this big with no framework, no regulation, no requirements. It's hard to back out of something that exists, right? Is that going to be filled in the future with more stricter regulations? Absolutely. Absolutely. So I just want you to consider the long view here. And we've heard, well, that means you just have to fight. You have to stay vigilant and keep fighting the fight and fight it at every turn. Well, guess what? Who has the time? We want to be left alone.
And we have the opportunity now with Republican conservatives to codify protective, proactive language. I wish we could do something with it.
Yes. So we, early on, okay, and another thing, let's back up here, because some of the sponsors are saying, oh, we worked with Granite State Home Educators. We worked with them to create this bill. No, they did not. So that is untrue. I'm just going to tell you untrue. There was one meeting, and what we had pitched was significantly different. What we pitched was removing like a couple words, changing a couple words. That's it. All right. That is not the same as rewriting the entire, significantly changing everything. So, guys, from the 30,000 foot view, I want you to consider the future. Is this current law burdensome? Is it high regulation to you? Is a one-time notification per child with a private option that no database, no tracking information is submitted to the state, and then keeping a portfolio however you want it, and then doing a year-end assessment? You have choices of how, who, what, when. Is that high regulation to you that warrants this complete rewrite, this magnifying glass that we are going to be under? And the void, we're saying the vacuum will be filled, okay, in the future. So I want you to consider, read the bills, read everything, because I guarantee you'll scratch your head and go, what? Why is that in there? Read it, read it, read it. I'm going to link current law. I'm going to link this with all the amendments. And then I'm also going to link the sign-in, because this hearing is on this Tuesday. Guys, this thing is going to pass. Something is going to pass, and it is up to us to voice our opinion, whatever that is. Okay? This thing is in the Senate Education Committee Tuesday morning at 9:45. So I'm going to link the sign-in. It's at Tuesday at 9:45 in the Senate Education Committee. It's HB 1268. So this has already gotten through the House, guys. Now it's in the flip over to the Senate. The next stop, what is the next stop? Signing. It going into law, guys. And this bill says active July 1st. Right?
Is effective date of pass July 1st.
July 1st. Guys, this is significant. This is significant. And as I say in info sessions, what I want to get across for you is I trust you, whatever your opinion is on this, but you need to know the facts and not the propaganda, because there's a couple of lobbying organizations that are pushing this. And they're using words like burdensome and, we're asking permission and we don't have rights and all this stuff. I don't agree with that at all. I really think our requirements are minimal. And yes, I love the sound of less regulation, less paperwork, less requirements, because I don't like any of that. However, once you remove the very minimal framework that we have for affirmative proof in situations where you need proof of home education, we are going to be in trouble under this law. Okay? And so Granite State Home Educators, after all these bills and this flurry back and forth, we came up with an option that we believe is the most liberty-minded option that could easily be added to this bill. It wouldn't change anything except make it stronger. And so because of personalities, because of optics, because of shenanigans, because it's from Granite State Home Educators, in my opinion, this option is not being considered. But I want you to consider it, and I want you to consider what I'm saying and whether or not you want to write in your testimony to the senators, because this is the most liberty-minded compromise. Okay? They want to be able to say, we're going to a no notification state. This is the most landmark bill in the United States. They want the street cred, and they want the fuel for their reelection campaign, right? That's what they want. Fair. Okay? However, adding in, instead of the optional self-declaration, which you could write with a Crayola crayon on the back of a receipt, instead of that, we have pitched an optional notarized self-declaration of home education. Notarized things are already currently accepted in serious situations. It's low cost. It's easy. It's already a thing, right? It's not a new thing like this optional Crayola crayon declaration that means nothing, okay? It's already a thing that people use in serious situations for proof. And so we pitch this as a compromise. And so I want you to consider, again, writing in that this would be a compromise to say, we're not comfortable with no notification whatsoever. Because guys, how is the state going to track how many students are home educated? Eventually, the Democrats are going to say, we don't know how many kids are being home educated. What about accountability? What about standards? Accountability and standards are their favorite. So listen, a notarized self-declaration option, but it has to be in the statute. It has to be written in. Yeah, we could do it.
Right, but if it's not codified, then no agency is required to accept it as proof, which...
Yep, let's look and see. Compulsory ed attendance recognizes home ed as an exemption. Correct. But we still need to prove it. Yes. What's accepted when there's nothing in statute that they'll accept as proof? We can't just poof, wave a magic wand and make DCYF go away. No, we have to have something that is a recognized, positive, affirmative proof in statute. We currently have that with the notification and acknowledgement letter that we receive back after notifying one time. So this is leaving. This is what my concern is, guys, is that when the legislature flips, okay, the target is on and the void is wide open for anything, for absolutely anything that they want to add into statute.
And if the indication of what's to come is by looking at current laws in other states, fasten your seatbelt.
Yes, yes. We're under a microscope. And just, is this the timing of this? It has to do with politics, but is this timing for us as home education families? Is this wise? I don't know. I want you to think about that. So again, this bill, please, please, please read it. Please go to Granite State Home Educators Facebook page. We have a blog. We've written article after article breaking down what the concerns are, amendment after amendment. We write articles updating, right? So go to Granite State Home Educators Facebook main page or go to GSHE New Hampshire, so nh.org, GSHENH.org, and check out our articles about this bill all along the way. And notice, guys, we haven't even touched on the behavior and shenanigans that has been heinous of some of these legislators and lobbyists. That's all I'm going to say. We have decided to not touch on that, and I guess I'm touching on it right now. But the behavior here has been really egregious behavior. And no, we don't have to be included in every single thing. But I think that it is very basic and common courtesy to do some polling, do some preliminary town halls, roundtables with leaders in the state. I mean, there's a dozen off the top of my head homeschool groups and organizations with leaders all over the state that should have had a say in this sweeping rewrite, should have had a say. And I really think that is not how this should be done. I think everyone should have, complete transparency about the intent and what it says and what it doesn't say. And, I just think that the process here has been really not good. And so that leaves me, wondering, is that really what the intent is? Why are we cramming all this stuff in that doesn't belong? Are we really doing what's in the best interest of home educators? Or is this a political machine at work here? So anyway, does anyone have any thoughts, questions about what we've been talking about. Because, a lot of people are excited about this bill. And I think for good reason, because there are sections of this that are really strong in terms of language and protection and carving out, as best they can with strong language. But at the same time, that strong language does not negate other agencies' guidelines and processes. Like, they're still going to knock on the door and ask you to produce the things. They're still going to need a paper trail and proof. And the lawyers from the lobbying organization said, well, just keep doing it anyway. Keep doing the paper trail you already do. And so, and then we're hearing, well, if this flips the script, it flips the script and puts the burden of proof on the DCYF to prove it. Well, that's how it is now. I mean, technically, they do still have to prove it. Well, we know that process is not going to change.
No.
We need minimal protection in statute. And I think that this self-notarized declaration, which, the people who wrote this bill have laughed at, they've scoffed, they've mocked, they've belittled us all along the way. You really don't have to search far, in the interwebs to find all of that as it unfolded. But we have been doing this a long time. We know what we're talking about. And so we know that the legislature is going to flip, guys. And so what is going to happen when there's no guidelines, when there's no numbers rolling in for notifications of how many kids are home educated in New Hampshire? What's going to happen when it flips to a Democrat legislature and the standards and accountability that we already are told we are lacking are in control of people who don't like us? So I want you to consider these things. Is there anything else that I missed?
No, not for this one.
Okay. So I don't see any other questions. I'm going to put this up. And you know what? People are going to be mad. Some people are going to be mad. They're going to watch this and send me hate mail. It's fine. But listen, I like the idea here. I like the thought behind this, but the delivery, the process, the lack of involvement of seasoned, veteran, moderate, we want to be left alone leaders in the state from all different organizations has been really to the detriment of this bill and this process. I wish they had consulted all the amazing women and a few men across all the groups in New Hampshire, but they just didn't. So that's why you need to read it. So I'm going to link it. Are there any questions before I sign off here? Kate, anything that you wanted to add? I'm just going to look back through here.
No.
All right. So, guys, we've been comfortable in New Hampshire for a long time. We've been comfortable because we've been kind of just flying under the radar, going on, doing our thing. But now the heat is on here. The spotlight is on. And is it going to get worse? Yes. Under this bill, it will significantly increase the spotlight and scrutiny on us. So I want you to think about going to gshENH.org. Oh, you're welcome. And reading through some varying opinions, because I think it's so important to not just talk to people who agree with you 100%. That's not how we refine things, okay? And unfortunately, that's what's been happening with this bill, is that folks have only been talking to people who 100% are on board with everything they say. And I just don't think that that is a reliable gauge of the home education community. I don't think that it is. And everybody, even with differing opinions, deserves to have their voice heard. So I don't see any other questions. I'm going to give them a second here. All right. Thank you both for doing this tonight. You're welcome. So what I'm going to do is try, I am not great at this. I'm going to put this video up on my YouTube And then let the hate mail commence.
Speak the truth even against it.
I know. We're trying, guys. We just want you to know. We want you to know stuff. So let us know. And thank you for watching. And we appreciate you guys.
Good night.
Bye.